Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah and I love to do all sorts of sewing and DIY projects. And this week I actually want to make a wallet. So I will be going to a few festivals this summer and I thought I desperately need like a small wallet that I can carry my cards and my cash around, and I came across this image here on Pinterest. And I became obsessed. But I couldn't find any instructions or pattern for it, so I decided to come up with my own. And yeah, in this week's video I will share how I recreated this, and I will share my pattern and like a full-on tutorial on how you can also recreate this. And I came up with two different options for pockets, so this is absolutely customizable to your needs. And honestly, this is the perfect project to use up all of your teeny tiny scraps that you might have lying around. So I think you probably don't even need to go out and buy anything for this project. So let's get started. So of course I'm referencing everything off the tape, as you should. I actually picked this one up. This is, I think in English you would say The Famous Five by Annette Blyton. I used to love these when I was younger and I think this color is so fun. And I'm basically sort of tracing the measurements and enlarging it a little bit. And I just picked up my IKEA family card. This is representative of my debit card, credit card, or ID, but I don't want to post my details on the internet. But this has the same size as all of my other cards. And as you can see, this already fits. But I would like to have a little bit more room because I'm also carrying cash around. So I decided to make it a bit bigger. And I have this little wallet here that I bought a while ago, and I really like the size. As you can see, it is quite a bit bigger than the card here, but I actually really like that. I will try to copy these measurements and then basically adapt them to be representative of the tape measurements. Besides the pattern, you obviously need some other materials for this project. So for the fabric, I decided to just upcycle what I had lying around. So I have several old pairs of pants or just scrap fabric. And then you obviously need a zipper or even two zippers if you do the second pocket option. And I usually harvest my zippers from old backpacks or old bags. And you can use whatever you like. You just need to make sure that your zipper is at least 15 centimeters long, because that will be the width of our pattern pieces. And then I also decided to add some sort of loop, just so that I can add a keychain if I want to. And this could be anything really, from shoelace to ribbon, or even just like your belt loops on an old pair of jeans. So the first wallet that I'm going to make will have an inside pocket, which means that it is a little bit easier because we only need one zipper at the top. So I will be cutting out two of my main pattern pieces in the main fabric and then two of my main pattern pieces in the lining fabric. And then I also have a separate pattern piece, which is for the inner pocket. So this pattern piece is a little bit smaller. It also has 1 centimeter of seam allowance here that you can, then fold over, and then you can attach it on the inside so that you will have a little pocket where maybe your cards could slide into. So these are all of my main pattern pieces. So this is the lining and then the inner pocket, and then I have two of the outside fabrics. And now I kind of need to add the little details. So this ridge right here, as well as these, I guess, spools, or I don't know how you call them. So this part here, and then also I would like to add some sort of fun title. And I've come up with a few pattern pieces. So this one will be here at the bottom, and then this thing is for the spool on top of here, and then I will also add some sort of name tab here as well. So this larger rectangle here I will be cutting out of the dark fabric, so I have this leftover denim here that I will use. These two circles I would like to add some sort of stitching to, yeah, make them recognizable as circles basically. And then in the middle I will put some sort of lighter fabric. I have several options here, so these are just scraps that I will use. And probably on the bottom, this trapezoid shade here, I will also maybe add a lighter color. I think I like this one quite a lot. And then I will also try to do like the stitching where the name of the tape will go also in maybe this color. So I have cut out all of my pieces that I need, and the first thing that I'm actually going to be doing is working on the inside pocket. So I will just be folding it over once. So every pattern piece comes with a seam allowance of 1 centimeter. If you have a fabric that frays a lot, you could obviously zigzag the edges or use your overlocker or serger, but I will just be folding it over so that this is nice and secure and sew the seam allowance shut basically. And then I can add the pocket to my lining fabric, and I will secure also the pocket to the lining simply because I don't want anything shifting while I'm sewing. So the next thing that I want to make is the little spool thingy here. So this part of the tape, and I will first be attaching the middle part like this rectangle here, and I will just attach it with a very narrow zigzag stitch, and I will just go all around the edges here. If you have fabric glue, you can also totally just glue it in place, or glue it in place and then sew. I don't have any fabric glue, so I just pinned it, and I will try to be as precise as possible. So I just marked my seam allowance on my front pattern piece, and this is 1 centimeter all around the edges. And then I also marked my center line, and this just helps me to sort of lay down my applique pieces correctly and center them so that they look good in the end. And my applique pieces will actually be sewn on the machine with a very small zigzag stitch, and the letters for the title of the tape I will be embroidering by hand. If your machine also can embroider letters, feel free to do so. My machine does not have the setting, unfortunately, so this will be handmade for me. And then I just went ahead and stitched everything on. Ta-da! So now we can get to constructing the bag, and I actually went ahead and cut my zipper to size. So this is 15 centimeters. I hate sewing over like the zipper teeth, so that's why I always like to add some pieces of fabric where I kind of elongate my zipper. So the process is super easy for that. You just take your zipper and a piece of fabric, and you basically put it on right sides together. You sew over it once, flip it over, and sew over it a second time. And you can always remove part of the zipper teeth right here so that you don't sew over these. And that way, when I'm then constructing the bag and sewing the side seams, I will sew over these pieces here and not over the zipper. If you have like these zippers that are a bit smaller and like easier to sew, I think you will be totally fine. So this is not something that you have to do, but I have a very chunky zipper, and I think it will make my life a little easier when I can just sew over this thinner cotton fabric instead of this zipper here. And then I also wanted to add a little tab. I told you that in the beginning, that I want to add a little piece here on the side, on the inside obviously, like that, so that I can maybe attach a keychain. You can use whatever you like, shoelaces, ribbons, or whatever you have. For the construction of the bag, I will basically be sewing the front and the lining pieces together. I'll place my zipper on the edge here, right sides facing each other, and then I'll put my lining fabric on here so that the zipper is sort of sandwiched in the middle. And you can always open your wallet just to check that you've pinned everything correctly. And now I'm just sewing along this edge here with the zipper foot. And then once I've sewn that, I'll also flip it over and do a top stitch just to make it very secure. And now you just repeat the same thing for the other side. So you place your main fabric right up here, and then right sides together, place your lining fabric here so that the zipper is sandwiched in between. And then you can always flip it over to see if everything is pinned correctly. So I have attached the zipper to my front and my back piece. So that is what it looks like right now. So I have the pocket here and my lining and then my outer layer. And now I want to connect all of the sides. And I just pinned my little tab here that I want to add. Make sure that the raw edge is facing also the raw edge, and that way it will get perfectly enclosed while you sew all around the edges here. And now you can basically just separate the outer layer and the lining like this, and then you will be sewing all around here, but you should leave a little opening at the lining section so that you can turn your piece through the opening in the end. So I just mark that. I'll also maybe do it with a marker like this, so I know where not to sew, and I will leave that open, and then in the end I can close it again. And you also need to make sure that your zipper is open as well, so that you can turn your piece inside out through the zipper opening here. So I've turned my purse or wallet inside out, and I made sure to poke out all of the corners as well so that they're nice and clean. You can also give it a good press, but just be careful to not merge your zipper right here. And now you still have, of course, this opening here. You can either stitch that down by hand, but honestly I'm just going to use a sewing machine, and I just do a quick stitch here, and I'm also making sure to back stitch to really make it secure. So I am now starting the second wallet or coin purse or pouch or however you would like to call it. And I've already started cutting out my piece. So this is my front piece, and then for the back piece I actually want to include a zipper. So basically if you have this purse here, I would add another zipper around this height or so to have an outer pocket as well as the main pocket right here. And I just went ahead and cut out all of my pieces. So I have a top pocket piece basically and a bottom pocket piece, and when everything is sewn they're supposed to be the same height as this one is. This is obviously not the case right now. I still need to attach them. They all have seam allowance, and then I need to trim everything so that it fits perfectly. I will put all of the dimensions again on the screen. For the second pocket I will start attaching the zipper as well. And for the zipper here I'm actually gonna do the same procedure as I did for my first wallet. So I'm also adding a tiny piece here of just normal cotton fabric to sort of elongate my zipper so that I don't have to sew constantly over the zipper teeth. So here you can see my zipper. I've attached 2 layers of the cotton fabric that I can just then fold over and top stitch. So that is how it looks like, and now I can just basically trim it to size but I always like to have just a little bit extra just in case, because I can always cut it off. And similar to the first piece that I made, I would just be placing my fabric right side on right side, so basically like this, and sew that, and then I have a perfectly enclosed zipper pocket. Okay, so I have my bag piece now with a pocket, and then my front piece, and I just double checked that they still fit and made some teeny tiny adjustments. But I would also like to have a little lining layer here. I mean, you always have a lining layer anyways, because as you can see here, we add another layer of fabric, you know, but I think I would like to have a third layer in between. And I don't want this layer to go all the way up, because I don't want to have any coins or cards or whatever up here. So I'm thinking that I'm just gonna cut out a piece that is roughly the size of my zipper here, and then I can just top stitch this close all around the edges here. And yeah, I would just top stitch the fabric here, and then also top stitch it at the bottom and along the sides. For the sides and the bottom, I'm obviously trying to stay within the seam allowance, so I'm using not the 1 centimeter seam allowance, but instead maybe just actually half of it. And here I'm just trying to stitch as closely to the stitch that I have already done. So for my second wallet, I actually want to add another piece of colorful fabric here, simply because I think that is really cute. And then once you add like all the other finishes, I feel like this is very cute and adds a nice level of detail. So I just put down a rectangle. This is roughly 5 by 10 centimeters, and I will just be sewing all along the edges here. And yeah, this is also a good way to use up some very cute scraps that I otherwise have no use for. So I finished both of my main pieces here for the outside, and then I've also cut out my lining pieces, and now it's time to assemble the whole thing. I'm basically doing the same thing as I did for my first wallet, except this time I have a lighter zipper that's actually easier to sew through, so I'm not going to bother with putting fabric on either side. Instead, I would just place my zipper directly here, and yeah, I will attach it the same way. So basically I will sandwich the zipper here in between my different fabric layers. So here I'm just attaching all of the pieces together, and then in the end, of course, I'm leaving a little opening to turn my piece inside out. And then lastly, I will also be closing that opening. And yeah, then my tape wallet is finished. And I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who likes, comments or subscribes. That really helps me out, and it's so much fun reading all of your comments. And also thank you to everyone who commented on my recent community post where I asked what I should do with the fabric that I bought in Berlin. And yeah, I think this will be either my next video or the following, so stay tuned. And I think now it's time for the reveal.